slow lane. Just drive me into the night. Just keep chasing the lights, 'cause they're all that's been keeping me sane.
Right, hello everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the Men's Room podcast featuring myself, Travis.
And I am Maz. Hello. You only get first names.
Absolutely.
At this moment in time during the first podcast.
I'm not that difficult to find, but if we get
to find you.
well, then up my stealth. I've obviously leveled up my stealth somewhere in life, mate.
You have.
But hey, we're not talking about that today.
No. Today, we want to tell you about a project that we got involved with end of last year, end of 2022. It's about November 23 now, and it is the Men's Health Project that's run by East Sussex County Council, and it's for Hastings St Leonards, and we've started to build a whole group of advocates and people who want to get involved, men who want to get involved as well, to improve men's health in the local region. So we're going to take you through a kind of a précis of how we got around to building this project, what our next steps are, what we've discovered as well during the process, and also how we want to kind of move on with it beyond the first few months of next year. Trav, did I cover it?
I think so. That's podcast. That's a wrap, mate. Okay, end of episode.
Excellent.
Yeah. So, I mean, how did you? Because it's interesting. You say you've been involved with the podcast. You've been involved with the project since last year.
Yeah. So I ended up turning up to a call to action by East Sussex County Council, who then seconded this project to Hastings Voluntary Action. So turned up at this Monday morning meeting last October, I think it was, and it was advertised as a men's health. What do we do about it in Hastings and St Leonards? So I thought, well, I'll go along to that. Could be quite interesting.
Absolutely.
35 women and 5 men. Whew. Were at the meeting.
Tough crowd.
It kind of was, and I tell you why it was tough, because none of the men spoke up.
Right. Okay.
And so, what was interesting about it is there was a lot of impetus around, and the 35 women, to be fair, were all associated with charities, with organisations like Samaritans, like Seaview, all of the sort of local sort of crisis centres. There was representatives for Band of Brothers there, So essentially, we're trying to galvanise all of these charities and all of these caring community projects to kind of come under one umbrella. How do we adopt, a kind of project to, force men to talk? Men don't talk.
We have ways to make you talk.
We do. It's not hello.
It could be.
So eventually, we went to the next phase of the project, and I think we followed different paths on the project, didn't we? Because I didn't meet you till about 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Then it all went downhill.
That's just, everyone you'll talk to will say the same thing, mate. You meet me, your life goes down.
Oh, no, I did the due diligence, yeah. So what happened was, I went off and became part of a training program hosted by HVA that were basically sort of gathering together guys who wanted to then sort of build a wider network of advocates, of people, men who wanted to kind of be local voices, I suppose, to sort of bring more out of other men. Trying to sort of build a sort of community of men who can actually talk, and that could take in a lot of avenues like safe rooms for men to go and talk without any judgment.
Yep.
And again, we're looking at a certain age group here. So there are a couple of age groups that we're sort of aiming at. Me in my 50s. I know in this harsh light, I look 30, but
not a day over 21, mate. I'm the one that looks in my 50s.
Thank you, Travis. You're back in the good books. And so there was ultimately that sort of age group that a lot of the guys who were in this first meeting, were in that age group. But then we needed to look at, which is also one of the primary things that really sort of built this up, is the younger age group and a lot of the local suicides that happen in the region. And really, it's, Hastings St Leonards is one of the worst in the country.
Yeah.
And I wanted to read, I was going to read one sort of little passage that was sort of kicked this off. It says, and this is actually Movember. This is a quote from the Movember project that's going on. We'll talk about that in a bit as well.
Yeah.
Every Movember, is home to Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. Men experience disproportionately high rates of suicide, with death by suicide being the biggest killer of men under the age of 50 in the UK. There are many reasons why men can't talk about mental health, such as societal expectations of masculinity.
Yes, indeed. Yeah,
So-
that's the word, isn't it?
We went off on that angle, and we were starting to build this sort of project. And then, Travis, you were down another angle of this sort of project, weren't you?
Yeah, man. I mean, that's what I say, because I didn't come into this project until I think it was around sort of March, April, May time of this year, and I became aware of it due to a call to action put out by HVA for a branding workshop, which was run by Dean, and it was a fantastic opportunity to just do something different. And when I came into it, I didn't really have any sort of preconceptions about how it was going to turn out. It was just like, we want to do this thing. It's around men's mental health and why men don't talk. We want to try and create this brand. And so getting involved with that, and then like into the creation of the logo and all that sort of thing, to, I think, because that leads up to the first time that I met you, which was at the men's event,
Yes.
where we launched a brand.
House, yeah.
That's it, yeah. And it was just from the point of conception to even that point, it was amazing to sort of see how organic everything came together. I mean, the branding workshop itself was so much fun. We spent a lot of our time just literally picking out logos.
And you came up with this.
We came up with
This
that,
is
yeah. You wouldn't believe that was born from pretty much a crown or a church sort of doodly type thing, where we sort of come up with the circles and turning the M into two men in sort of a handshake. And that was all born from like a few boxes of dodgy dogs, churches and crowns. You know, and actually might be quite interesting. I'll try and get that up on Facebook somewhere. So we are putting together a book covering the branding journey, which will have all that in there. But if I can get hold of some of the images, it is pure humour just to see sort of where that came from.
Yeah.
But yeah, then from there, once that logo was created and the brand was created, everything else just sort of snowballed.
And part of what the whole sort of branding team, and you know, as we all sort of came together as sort of two teams building this sort of project, is suddenly we thought, well, actually, audiovisual is a really good medium to try and get to a target audience.
Absolutely.
And the audiovisual sort of the next step that we all sort of took part in was we ended up doing a radio show a few weeks ago.
Yes, yeah, with Francis. I mean, that was great fun as well. That was so much fun, just sitting down, sort of talking about that. And was it Francis, Nick, and Kate?
Yes, Kate, not Kat.
Kate, not Kat. Yes, note to Francis, Kate, not Kat.
Yeah.
But it was, and it's so nice talking about it in that sort of environment, but equally talking about it just out in the open, out in the wild. I mean, I'm often walking around town in that T-shirt and people just come up to me, "Oh, Mr. Hastings St Leonards, what's that?" And it's, once you explain it to them, they're like, "Wow, how can I get involved?"
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
And we ended up the next weekend, we ended up filming, didn't we?
Yes.
So
Yes.
we brought together, and Francis, who's a local filmmaker and playwright, he put together his team, a production team. We went to a local barber's in St Leonards.
Yeah, Goodman's Barbers. Yes,
just opposite the seafront.
Shout out to Charlie and the team.
Yes, and they were really lovely. They gave us their site for the whole day, essentially. And we had 18 men come in, give interviews in the barber's chair about their kind of perspective on masculinity. What do we think is wrong with it? A lot of very rough-edged, kind of I mean, there was some hard talk.
It was open talk, and I think that's the thing about it is, because when you get a bunch of guys together, it's all generally easy, lads. But this was very much open, honest, down to earth, real conversation, and I don't think I knew what to expect going into that. I certainly didn't expect the intensity that we got out of it, and it was.
That's what I mean about hard talk. It was sometimes it was very, very difficult to listen to. It's incredible. Some of the stories, obviously, that have sort have happened locally and recently. Tragic stories about suicide, tragic stories about, it comes out when you sort of put a man in a chair, let's say. He's either going to, kind of give you everything that it's on his mind, or he's going to clam up.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think we just, it was such a relaxed environment that everyone kind of gave something quite emotional.
That's right, and I think it's also the fact that it wasn't forced. From every sort of step of the way, it's very much like just say as much or as little as you want. And everyone had a choice to be there. Everyone wanted to be there. They were there because they wanted to be able to sort of share that. But I mean, I think the biggest thing that I got out of that day was the reaction from some of the other guys, and where it was very much like, wow, I feel that, or I don't know. It's very difficult to put into words. It was euphoric is absolutely the wrong word, but it's around those sort of feelings. Do you know what I mean? And it was so.
Well, it was the sort of event, I think, that you didn't expect to be in that position and to listen to those.
Humbling.
Very much so. I think it's a very good word for it. Definitely. So what's going to happen with the film is we're going to cut it together, and there's going to be a longer version, but also we're going to use it as a campaign as well.
Yep.
And so in the coming weeks, we'll start sort of releasing that, on social media, etc. And also leading into social media, the next sort of iterants of this project, you can start seeing us on certain sort of platforms as well. And we decided as well to be a bit more, not comical, but, a bit, we're trying not to make light of this subject matter, but I think one of the approaches that we realised, guys don't like to be preached to.
Absolutely, preach.
So next podcast, I'll be wearing a vicar's outfit.
And I'll call you Papa.
You got the Bishop of Bath and Wales. So I've got the outfits are upstairs, ready for Christmas.
Oh, amazing.
So
this is going in a different direction, but I'm
is.
all for it, man. I'm here for it.
This project's going to end right here, isn't it? First podcast.
First and last.
So I think what we intend to do is, and I mentioned a bit earlier about the sort of younger generation, the sort of older generation that we represent. I represent. You're probably a youngster as well, lad.
I'm 40s, mate. 40s.
Yeah, you're young. So what we want to do is build a campaign or a set of campaigns that resonate with all of the age groups that this project really needs to sort of get in touch with. And sort of going back to the subject matter, really, what we're trying to sort of do is not build a come to us and we'll solve all your problems kind of thing, but part of the social media, part of the access of an information access of where you can get help for a lot of mental health issues that, a lot of people don't understand where they can get help from initially. A lot of men don't understand what they're feeling in a lot of cases, and what they want to do is find like-minded men to truly understand that they're not suffering in isolation.
Absolutely.
Really.
And I think it's the strength of being heard as well, because sometimes it's like, talking personally, I don't necessarily want someone to fix all my problems. I don't know that there's anything that necessarily needs fixing. That's a conversation for another day, but sometimes it's just being heard. And I think that's, in my head, that's what this project is about in a way as well. It's giving men that voice so that they can be heard. And if they feel that they can't be heard, where can they go to be heard?
And I think that was one of the challenges that we looked around Hastings St Leonards, during this sort of project setup and the discovery phase, and we realised there were a lot of places, but no one knew about them, and not one were connected with the other. So there were quite a lot of very, very useful and very sort of well set up and established organisations. A lot of them are charities with very little budget, or they're CICs, caring community organisations with very little budget. So again, that's something that stops some of these things, moving forward, because suddenly they have no budget after year one, and they disappear. And that is another problem with trying to gain the trust of men who will give you their, they put their trust in you, and they want to have something that's consistent. And the trouble is, I think consistency with some of these organisations is a struggle.
Absolutely, because there isn't much in the way of consistency. I mean, you talk to anyone that's sort of been through the rounds, through the official channels of anything with mental health, and it's very much there's no consistency to the level of service that they receive. Some people will say, "Yeah, it's the best thing ever." Other people will say, "What service?" And yeah, a large amount of that is it's great. Setting up initiatives while they've got funding is absolutely great. But if they haven't got any way to sort of continue with that funding or to sort of self-fund, then it all falls apart. And unfortunately, that one thing that falls apart and disappears might be something that a man was like really into, and we don't want to have to sort of start the whole process again. I mean, that's why I used to love Lego, but it frustrates the hell out of me, because if you sort of knock it all down, you don't want to start building it up again. Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's a bit of a stupid analogy, but it works in my head. And that's it. And I think part of this project for me is keeping our finger on the pulse of the local mental health community insofar as like what services are available for the sake of this project and what we're talking about for men. But largely, I think it's about keeping an eye out on what's available globally, but and then just providing the information for that. I mean, before coming into this, I didn't know about things like Project Rewild and Take Action Man or Routes of Return, for argument's sake.
Me either.
And you've got, and there's so many more, and I'm not saying you because for any reason other than the fact that you've gone out of my head for a minute, but there's so many more out there, and so much. I mean, you've got the campaign against living miserably, which is a national thing. I'd heard about it, but I'd never really sort of understood quite what it is about until looking into it. So doing this and getting involved in this project has really sort of opened my eyes to the fact that the support is there. It's just not talked about enough.
Yeah. And so what we intended to do as part of this, almost like create an umbrella of us being able to sort of use this brand to be the kind of the signpost to a lot of these organisations, and assist with these organisations and pull them together as well and get them working together as well. And I think that's something that has already worked. With the open day that we had actually in June 23. At Prospect House was a gathering of a lot of the sort of crisis centres in Hastings St Leonards. A lot of the new initiatives, like we mentioned, Project Rewild and Craig's Cabin,
Band of Brothers,
Yes. Again, all of these can interconnect with each other, and they can sort of feed each other with their experience as well on how to sort of deal with some of these issues. And I think it was very successful, and we want to sort of repeat these sort of open forum, because we invited a lot of men from Hastings on a Saturday afternoon to walk up the hill and kind of come into this environment and basically almost like bare their souls essentially, because I think a lot of things that we were presenting, because we had presentations on stage of all these different organisations, I think it did resonate. It resonated hugely with people. So I think
massive, yeah.
and men, and I think even just going back to last weekend when we did the film, there was a guy that came in that this guy had only met him the night before. Yeah, he had the dog.
Yes.
And I didn't know what he was doing. I thought people knew him, and he was just brand new. And basically, he said, "Oh, I just came along because I was interested in what." I said, "Are you going to go up and sit in the chair?" And he went, "No, I don't think so." 10 minutes later, Francis had convinced him to sit in the chair, and he bared all. I mean,
it was an amazing, absolutely amazing shit. And I think that was his story and experience was one of the ones that sticks in my head the most because of how hestant he was.
Yeah. He found it a trusting environment. So I think a big part of, I know we're skipping around here, but I think a big part of what we wanted to create within this umbrella was basically an avenue for men to be able to say to themselves, "I'm not suffering in isolation. There are other men going through things that I think I'm going through, and I don't want, is it driving me mad, or can I get some sort of, interaction with someone else who feels these sort of things?" And I think that's where a lot of the feedback that we've had so far is very much, about this is what we're looking for. Yeah. This sort of thing, are you for real? Are you going to be consistent? Yeah. Are you going to be, a longer term prospect? How do you, and also get involved. Yes. We're inviting other men to get involved. Actually, not just men and women to get involved.
Yeah.
Because we think women are very much an important part of this process.
Absolutely.
Because usually they're the ones that suffer from,
That's it. I mean, and that's one thing that I do sort of, I mean, you might have noticed it earlier on, I do trip up over that, and I will continue to
only
trip
that
up
cable over there when we
mate, the health and safety cable. You can have a wireless environment. I will still find a cable to trip over. But it's when we're talking about this, I know the project is the men's room for Hastings and St Leonards, but women are as much of a part of this journey. Just because it's called the men's room doesn't necessarily mean that it excludes women. We're not a good old boys club where women aren't allowed, because every woman has got a brother, a husband, a son, a friend. Take the gender out of it, and then we're talking about the same thing across the board. But no, it is, and having the woman's voice or a woman's voice taking part in the conversation it gives a unique point of view, because it's all well and good hearing about a man's experience from a man's point of view, but let's hear about it from the spouse's point of view, or the sister's point of view, or the auntie's point of view, because it gives us another angle, different perspective, and it is only going to enhance the conversation. There's no bad conversation as far as this is concerned.
No, I agree. And this project was set up when I said that, I turned up to a meeting of 35 women. It was run by women, and they've been our kind of like mentors all the way through this process, haven't they? As part of HVA.
Oh, mate, HVA. I mean, big up to Teresa and JC and the rest of the HVA team, because they have been absolutely pivotal in the success of this project. Granted, what we've done as well, what the champions have done, and what the branding team, what everybody else has been involved to do has been pivotal as well. I'm not sort of diminishing anything, but their support, their input, and their sort of dogged determination to see this conversation through has been absolutely astounding. So,
and if they hadn't brought this together, we would never have met.
Absolutely,
really,
absolutely. If they hadn't have brought this together, then you guys wouldn't be looking at two of the most beautiful people.
We are putting a filter on this afterwards, by the way.
Yes. I'm going to have lots of lovely makeup, and my beard is not going to have any grey. It's going to be a bit of a task, but there you go. But yes, anyway, sorry.
So, well, we do intend to sort of continue with these sort of podcasts as well. But next time we're going to have, we're going to be quite thematic in how we sort of build some of the messaging. So we want to sort of keep everyone informed of where we're going with this. So we're going to have some guests come on to talk about a lot of things, a lot of even their own either experiences or even a lot of organisations to explain what they do and how they fit and how they started up, and also to give in Hastings and St Leonards a lot of local businesses a chance to have a chat. Yeah. Is there a local restaurant that's opened up? Is there I see in the Hastings Palace a cinema has opened up again, and I went along the other day and it's under new management and it was a really nice evening. So all of these smaller businesses that exist within Hastings St Leonards as part of the community and part of how we want to kind of like join them all together ultimately. And also it's a place, they're places to go in the evening, and sort of things to do that men can do that they don't necessarily know about. There's a lot of music that goes on in Hastings. There's a lot of new music venues as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I've taken advantage of music venues. In my 50s, I'm the old rocker standing at the back nursing my pint. What are you doing here, Grandad? I'm not a boomer. I'm a Gen X.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
I generally find that, if I go to sort of gigs, I'm the one standing in the back trying so hard not to jump into the mosh pit because I know that it's not going to end well. I'll be like,
my back will be put out instantly.
Crowd surf me out of it.
Yeah, totally. So I mean, we're going to expand on what we talk about, and also we'd welcome feedback. When we publish these podcasts, we do want to sort of welcome some feedback, and we want to sort of also see if we can build more initiatives or be responsible for sort of getting initiatives funded. And try to sort of build some. What am I trying to say? Build some
momentum.
Lego?
Build, yeah. Well, if you build it,
They will come.
oh, you see, it's interesting. Apparently, that's a bit of a Mandela effect thing. It's if you build it, he will come,
Yes.
not they will come. But
That's
I
Field of
haven't.
Dreams, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is Field of Dreams.
Yeah.
I haven't confirmed it myself because I'm too lazy. But yes, anyway, completely off topic and obliterating what you said. And I
couldn't
have no
remember
idea.
what I was saying
I've
either.
got no idea what your trailer for.
Which leads me on to, right?
Welcome to the
Highly professional.
podcast.
Look like newsreaders now, don't we? Highly professional. The weather.
And now,
So one of the ideas that we are talking about clubs and things, and things
Yeah.
that we want to do in Hastings St Leonards, things that already exist, but also new things that we want to sort of try and create, new clubs. There's some great initiatives out there, like a gaming. There's gaming clubs.
oh
that
mate,
happen
yeah,
on a
like
weekly
tabletop
basis.
games or
Yeah.
whatever. There's so many
And-
tabletop game shots popping up.
And reading groups. I think someone runs is it a Tolstoy reading group? But something's fascinating. So with these very small, cliquey kind of things that happen that do have interest for some people, especially an old geezer like me. I like my reading now. Gotten back into my reading. That's why my reading glasses.
Hey.
And I like films.
Yep.
So I was thinking maybe we should start a sort of film and reading group.
Absolutely.
Here's the book of the film, even if it's either Black Hawk Down, which is a great book, by the way, and then there's the movie. And they're very much sort of male-themed movies as well, and then we can sort of have discussion around it. Because a lot of these movies do have very strong male themes, don't they?
Absolutely.
And whether it's machismo, whether it's things that are much more vulnerable, it might be something interesting to explore.
No,
I think
absolutely.
leading on to, and I know I keep leading on to things.
Nah, you've got to lead on to something, mate.
We were talking about spirituality the other day.
Yes, we were.
So
Quite
ultimately,
frequently.
there are things that men shy away from, yoga,
Yep.
spirituality,
Yep.
things that are a bit mamby-pamby.
Yep.
But I think, having an avenue to explore some of those things without any judgment and without, you never know what would work for you.
Well, no, this is it, and I mean, this is the thing that really sort of this is what grinds my gears. There's a lot of things that grind my gears, but spirituality and the misconception around it. And I used to be guilty of this as well. As soon as someone used to mention spirituality for me, I'd just switch off. I'm not interested. I'm not a religious person. No judgment against who is. Do what you do. Be who you want to be. Whatever. Don't care. But I had no interest in spirituality because to me it was all very sort of airy fairy, or sort of like if you play Street Fighter, Dial Sim style, sort of floating in midair while meditating. But when you really sort of understand that all spirituality is, it's just about acknowledging that there is something more than you that is out there. It doesn't necessarily have to be anything that exists. It could be that cup, and this I suppose this angle of spirituality comes very much from a recovery standpoint, because it's about a sort of acknowledging a higher power, that there is a higher power out there. The higher power could be God, it could be Buddha, it could be a dog, it could be a pencil, it could be a cup, it could be a teapot. It doesn't matter. All it is, it's just a symbolic understanding that you do not have control of what happens to you. You are not in control. And when you think that you are in control, that's your ego. Your ego is telling you are in control. And when you believe that you're in control, that's when you make mistakes. That's when you trip up. And on the road to recovery, when you think that you're in control, that's when you think, well, I can have a pint. No, you can't have a pint, because that one pint is going to be a 6-month-long relapse. And that's where the spirituality comes into it. It's literally just acknowledging the fact that you do not have control. And once you do that, you're able to accept life on life's terms. Things don't get so heavy when you can just turn around and say, okay, that's the thing that happened. How do I solve that problem? Otherwise, if you try to retain control, you're focusing on the problem rather than the solution. And it's so blazingly simple, and it's not really that mystical at all. And I think if we can demystify it, that might open the door for a few more men, women, people, whoever, but men, to be able to sort of engage with that philosophy, because it's very releasing.
Well, I'm going to experiment with it. We agreed, didn't we?
Yeah.
We're going to have see if we can explore that. And I think one of the things that we'll be barefaced about, I suppose, is well, you're not barefaced. No,
Neither
am I.
No, if I was barefaced, I'd look like a thumb.
No. Travis Thumb. Travis Thumb. It sounds like a Scorsese character. But in Lilliput. Where was I?
Investigating.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, let's try and investigate some of these things. And I think part of what also we're trying to sort of achieve is unlocking the stigma around us being quite sort of open with each other as men, unlocking a stigma of thinking that you're dealing with crap on your own, and no one else will understand you, which is where as you said, women come into it with your family, your friends, people who care about you.
That's right.
And that you potentially will end up hurting in some way because you haven't dealt with things in the way that you should do. So to be healthy for yourself.
Absolutely.
And I think a big part of this is our initiative is to try and sort of build confidence in men to become healthy in a lot of ways, mind and body in a way.
Well, that's it. I mean, that's part of the branding. We come up with sort of three sort of key phrases. It's unlock the door, inspire change, build bridges. So if you say about unlocking, that's exactly it. So if we can unlock the door, we can inspire change in the way that we sort of approach these things, and then we can build bridges amongst the community so that people don't feel so alone. And that is the core tenets of what we're trying to achieve. And it is incredible. I mean, in less than a year, we're sitting here recording a podcast.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's insane.
And we're very passionate about it as well.
Absolutely.
I think it's something we've looked forward to for a long, long time. We planned it for a good few months, and suddenly we thought, will we not talk about anything? Do we need prompts?
Yeah.
Should we... We've just been nervous. But no, it's been all right, hasn't it?
It's been amazing, and I think that's just the natural sort of trepidation that you feel whenever doing something new. And I think we've discussed this a lot. We've late night sort of WhatsApp messages where sort of my brains have been leaking out of my ears with ideas, and it's like, well, what about this? What about that? And I think, as with the rest of this project, and since like starting recording this however long ago to where we are now, it's organic. And I think it is important, and I think moving forward, every episode, like you said before, we'll have a theme, we'll have things that we want to sort of talk about, but I think the rest, all conversations are organic. You can tell when a conversation is false. And yeah, I think that's. I've completely lost the trail of where I was going with that since I started.
We've been losing our trail, haven't we? Very regularly, but I suppose that's natural.
That is
natural. Imagine a DJ on a radio station. He's got notes, hasn't he? We've got nothing. What have I got? Lentils, wallpaper, beans.
What have I got? Possible bipolar disorder, depression. Oh no, sorry, we're talking about this. My bad.
Well, that neatly goes into the next thing I wanted to actually sort of talk about and one of these are the sort of themes that we want to sort of cover in the coming weeks, are kind of what the issues are that we need to address. So I sort of made a wee list here. What information do men need who are going through various forms of addiction or various forms of stress? So the common things that are coming up when we're going through this investigation are the addiction piece, which is drink, drugs, gambling, and we heard a horrible story about a gambling addiction victim the other day. In the Hastings area, I mean, it was awful. And so the trouble is that sort of it makes things very, very real. It makes things that people are suffering in silence as well and alone, sort of very, very real. And then ultimately, also what we want to do is sort of demystify some of these other things like anxiety, stress. What's the difference between anxiety? What's the difference between stress, anxiety, depression? All of the sort of parts that perhaps you don't know what you're feeling. And we'll try and sort of build some kind of signposts again to information and to organisations that could help you if you were sort of looking for that sort of information as well.
That's right, and I think if in sort of demystifying some of the jargon and sort of talking about and breaking down all these things, that's just going to break down more barriers. Because you can talk to me about things like anxiety, stress, depression, yada yada yada, and I understand what those phrases mean. I understand the difference between them, not for any other reason other than the fact that I've recently sort of enrolled in a mental health course, but I've also just been very interested in reading about these things over the years. But that doesn't mean that, Joe Bloggs down the road who's feeling anxious, he just might think that he's just a scaredy cat or something, or he might think there's something massively wrong with him. Whereas if we can break down what anxiety is, because it's just a word, it's difficult to spell, let alone say if you don't know what it is. And if we can really sort of break down this, rather than using the word and the language, we sort of break down the feelings and the results, then people are going to be able to sort of understand and identify with that. I think that's the important thing, identification. So instead of someone sitting there thinking, well, I'm just a freak, they can sit there and go, somebody else feels that way. And that's all part of it.
And I think as well, you've got to, when you start researching some of what you potentially feel online, and you might go down a rabbit hole on things that aren't necessarily the information that's not necessarily motivated to be a benefit to you, but more a benefit to the business that it's promoting. So just be very careful about, how you kind of research a lot of the things. I mean, go to NHS is very good online on sort of breaking down some of the things that, they practically can explain. And I think that should be your first sort of port of call. 100%. And also I think even when I was sitting in the barber's chair, I said one of the places that you should, if you feel that you are feeling something you don't understand, you should go and talk to your GP.
Yeah,
and a lot of the reason the men don't go to the GPs is a lot of the GPs are women.
Yeah.
And so the trouble is that is a barrier that men put in place themselves, and these are trained people that if you explain how you feel, instantly they'll get it and they'll give you some guidance. And once you sort of give that it's that first step. The first step of accepting that guidance is the first step on the road to recovery in a way, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, I think there's a lot of stigma around GPs as well. Some people have had bad experiences with GPs, and they're going to be put off from seeing them again. Or maybe I think a lot of it is men are like, I know speaking personally, they've got more things to worry about. I'm not going to bother with that. I can deal with it. I can manage. And in reality, no, I absolutely can't. But that's just part of it. And I think it is that fear of, especially if the GP is a woman as well, there is that. But we tend to downplay, so you build up the courage to go and see a GP, and the GP is like, so how you feeling? I'm all right, man. I just had a bit of a bad day the other day, when inside you're really screaming and you're saying, and I think going towards understanding, like just sort of backtracking a little bit, the understanding of these words and things is going to help people be able to see that they need or be better armed to explain to a GP how they're feeling. Yeah. I mean, you say about other resources as well. I've just mentioned Campaign Against Living Miserably, Calm. Yeah. They have got a fantastic resource on their website. I'm actually going to be linking to it on Facebook shortly, but it's got guides, user guides, for lack of a better phrase, explaining all of these different terms, like anxiety, depression, yada, yada, yada. And it breaks it down into what it is, how you can sort of self-help around that. And, phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal information. And it is, it's really sort of available on the internet. And, that again, that's sort of some of the things that we're going to be putting out on Facebook, talking about on the show. Yep. Because these are all valuable resources. Yeah. Yeah. And we definitely put a lot of energy and time into that, into researching that in the next sort of set of podcasts, don't we? Yep. And I think, getting to that nub is kind of what this is all about, really. Absolutely. And then lastly, I thought we'd just finish on, it's November. Yes, it is. So we're doing the Movember sort of initiative this month is all about, Movember's a charitable organisation set up to raise money for mental health awareness and in November, and there's various things like growing silly mustaches and going for a 100k run and things like that. But I'm doing the 200k at the moment. I've raised £275 so amazing far. That's good.
And since it rained the last few days, I haven't been able to get out as much. So I'm going to have to do double the next few days. So not going to get much work done. Walk the dog.
Not much work, but plenty of working out, mate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need some good shoes, I think. some wellies.
Hashtag buy Maz shoes.
Yes. If you could donate your shoes, not used, please. Any new shoes? Any brands out there? Timpsons. They still going, Timpsons?
Don't they do keys?
You know.
No idea, mate.
Yeah, well, maybe we're in the wrong game. We should be promoting brands, shouldn't we?
You know that, mate.
Oh,
you know that. This could get
next week. There'll be a Cartier watch on my wrist, and
it'll be like that scene. Do you remember that scene in Wayne's World where they're talking about everything, and all of a sudden Garth's just sitting there, and he's just sort of like the Nike cap on, the Adidas shoes. I just think it's so bad.
Yes,
it's
so,
like Nurofen, little yellow, different.
We don't really care about men's mental health. We're actually in this for the money. So none of this blah. We'll get discovered at some point. That's what we call fake news, Maz. We can't go saying fake news, mate. We care deeply. We do care deeply.
Maybe I mean all fake news has some sort of element of truth in it somewhere, though, I guess. But hey,
But Movember. Basically,
yes.
It's Movember. I think. It's actually quite progressive to have a full month dedicated to this.
I agree. Yeah.
Matter. I think certainly men's health has been on people's lips. This initiative has moved forward in the last couple of years hugely.
Absolutely.
And I think one of the things we want to do is sort of make sure that it's promoted correctly as well.
Yes.
And it's not about male toxicity. It's not about maleness and machismo that's unhealthy and unnatural. It's about trying to sort of discover yourself as a man and making sure that you're comfortable with it.
Absolutely. I mean, that's saying sort of just to expand on Movember. The other great thing about it is obviously the awareness around testicular cancer. There's a lot out there about how to check your lads. I mean, Movember have actually got a link to it recently, Nuts and Bolts. Which is all about testicular cancer, testimonials, and guides and all that sort of thing. But it's also prostate cancer as well. So there's an awful lot that is going on there. But the conversation about male suicide and men's mental health, yeah, you're absolutely right. It has over the past few years. It's become sort of more and more to the forefront of the conversation. It's something, because I mean, historically it's always been, boys don't cry, man up, and all of the other wonderful phrases that we've heard. And it is nice to almost see that sort of rallying cry against that. And I think another part of what I want to achieve, or I'm hoping that we can achieve with this podcast primarily, is battling against the toxicity.
Yes.
Battling against that toxic element, because it is very easy to fall into that sort of toxic masculinity trap. Yeah. And, I'm a father of two boys. My eldest is at secondary school, and I'm so uber conscious of how these, specific people that I'm not going to name are targeting these sort of age groups. And I think the louder we can make our voice in sort of battling against, not necessarily shutting down toxic masculinity, but perhaps translating it into something that can be actually more positive. Because if you sort of read behind the lines on a lot of what these people say, there are nuggets in there that are very useful, but it just gets twisted.
And I think that's the it's the really sensitive issue of, like, if we start scratching at the surface of some of these things, we have to be very careful, obviously, about, I mean, definitely our impartiality is in a much more moralistic kind of way that we want to present this. And I think we need to kind of be quite open, but also we're going to shut that down ultimately, that sort of negativity and, the promotion of negativity. I think we definitely need to sort of bring more positive attitude to,
Agreed.
To how we sort of present ourselves as a species, as the male species. And I think we could try with, and I think with some of the interviews that we're going to, go through, we're going to sort of unlock some of that. Because I think it's all very well us banging on about this, but I think we've got to get people who are sort of coalface and have experienced some of these things, and I think and I think we will have, based on our interaction with the film the other day, the filming, is that I think there's a lot of men willing to talk, and I think it's probably going to be very cathartic for a lot of men, and we've had a lot of good feedback so far.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I mean,
we've got a lot to cover, haven't we?
That's right.
We've got a lot to cover in the coming week. I think we'll be back.
I think we will be back, most definitely, because we are I don't know, something that doesn't go away. Even if we're not wanted, we're just sort of here. But at the end of the day, we are here for you.
Absolutely.
So it stands for you to get involved. That's right.
And Cartier and Lidl and whoever else we can get sponsorship from.
Yeah, sponsored by Nike. Not really. Buy all shoes that you want.
Yes. We'll blank that bit out.
Yeah, probably. There's probably going to be a few bits that will be sort of off cuts. The blooper reel on the YouTube channel and TikTok is going to be gold dust.
Oh yes, so we'll be on YouTube, TikTok,
mate.
Associated.
Already, if you go to mensroom.community, we've got our link tree there, which will tell you basically link to all of the socials that we've currently got active. At the moment, we're very active on Facebook, reasonably active on Insta. Got a TikTok channel up and running, not very active at the moment, but we're going to be moving on to things like YouTube.
I'm very active on TikTok.
I am active on TikTok.
Because of my daughters, they film me when I'm not looking, singing and dancing.
I love
accidentally, and then they post it in 1,000 views.
I think I'm going to be following your daughters and be reposting on the men's room.
Yes, why not?
The men's room TikTok, because I think that's hilarious content. I literally will stand up in front of a camera and dance myself and record it because I just
literally
don't care.
record a podcast.
It's all that. But
Instagram, Instagram, TikTok. Are we on the Snap?
No, I
don't know.
No,
the Snap.
I don't think
it's the right
hashtag boomer energy. I don't really get Snapchat too much. No, absolutely. I take the mickey out of myself because I do have boomer moments. I mean, what am I? I suppose I'm Gen X / millennial.
Yeah, Gen X. I would say.
So. I think the problem is with my sort of age group, the sort of the 40 to 41. I'm 41. Geez, I have to think about that. We are on the cusp between the Gen X and millennial.
You don't know what you are.
No, I don't know. This does explain a lot about me, actually. Identity crisis, but so Snapchat I ain't got a clue.
No, I haven't.
But I mean, I think the thing is, the sky's the limit. There's no limitations to I think where we're sort of going to be, and what we're going to do. And I think the thing that excites me with platforms like TikTok, it's the engagement with and other people being able to get involved. I'm really excited to see that first thing that we do on TikTok and someone duetting it or stitching it. I'm really excited to see that. It's going to be amazing.
Good. Well, we're going to go for it.
Absolutely.
And I hope we'll have your support as well. And hopefully this will go out in some way, shape or form on the YouTube, Tik.
Yeah, man. I mean, the video element of it, we're going to full episodes on YouTube.
Yep.
We're going to have shorts, so snippets cut up just to for the sake of humour on TikTok, Facebook Reels, and in YouTube Shorts. But also the podcast itself, the audio format podcast, is going to be on things like Spotify Podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or any of the multitude of apps that you use, Podcast Addict. Basically, wherever you get your podcast from, you will be able to hear us on there. And you can communicate with us through there. If you've enjoyed it today, drop us a little review and 5 stars. If you haven't enjoyed it, then drop us a little review and 5 stars.
Yeah.
You know how it works. It's the same. It's the same everywhere. But I know we said finally talking about Movember, but how I personally would like to wrap this first episode up, Maz, is just by a little sort of snippet of where do you think this is going to be, bearing in mind where we are now from where we were 6 months ago. Where do you think we're going to be this time next summer? Let's say June, July next year.
Well, I think so. What we tended to do was build out a campaign of what we wanted to do for the next sort of 7 or 8, 10 months. So we had some targets on how we want to sort of build a brand, how we want to sort of attend or even, I think we're doing something on the 30th of November, is it?
We've got HVA have got their AGM on the 17th.
Next week,
which
yes,
is next
17th.
week.
And then there's something at the end of the month.
Mind.
We'll come to it.
Mind are doing
Yes.
the Hastings Men's Mental Health Product
That's
Showcase,
right.
showcasing the men's developmental projects which are available within the Hastings and St Leonards area. That was all in one breath.
That is very, very important because if you go on the Mind, is it Mind?
Mind.org.
Mind.org website, you can actually register to do like an online questionnaire.
Yeah.
And that's really useful. So I would encourage you to do that as well.
Yeah.
I think I started mine. I registered anyway. And then
Yes, on the socials. I mean, I know at the minute because they've got a 6-week course on how to hold a conversation regarding mental health,
think
which
that
is
was it,
amazing.
Yeah.
But they've also got. They're currently not taking sign-ups for it at the moment because the requirement and need for this was so large.
Yeah.
But it's like a 6-week course, self-guided sort of self-care course on how to deal with your own mental health, which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, but check out the Mind website. They are always doing things on there.
And we'll
There's always
publish
little
these
courses.
things, won't we?
Yeah.
We're going to publish them on the Facebook. Site, etc. So we'll constantly sort of publish things that we see that are either free, easy accessible, information that's useful.
That's it. And if there's anything, if anyone listening to this is doing something like this or has got something that they're involved in or something that they know about, let us know. If we don't know about it, then we can't talk about it.
Yeah. We'll promote it.
Exactly. We'll promote the hell out of it, man. You know, at the end of the day, anything that is going to help you, and by you I mean everyone, doesn't matter who you are. Anything that is going to help you, it is going to be featured here. It's going to be featured on the socials. It's going to be talked about because at the end of the day, all we are here for is to just try and make everyone's life a little bit better. You know, if I can do something positive today that makes you feel better, then I have just thrown a stone in the river and that ripple of positivity is just going to be flowing forward.
Yeah.
And then I've made you feel better. You're going to then ripple on to make somebody else feel better, and it's a beautiful Mexican wave. It really is.
And, you know, to just complete the loving, you've made me feel better today.
Amazing.
I mean, you know, it's been a very, very good end to our day. It's in the evening now on a Thursday. It's rainy and horrible outside. And we've just had, you know, a great little conversation.
Brilliant chat,
And I think, you know, it's given us ideas of how to do the next one as well.
No, exactly
a lot more structured, probably.
I doubt it.
Yeah, I don't know. So
I like your positivity there.
Yeah, it's
man.
very-
You know, that's what
that
we're all
was
about.
positivity, wasn't it?
That was positivity. You know, I mean, positivity, realism.
same thing, isn't it? Anyway,
I think
so. We've kind of done, haven't we?
Yeah, I
but
think
the last
so.
thing I was, because you did ask me a question.
I did. Yes, I
So
forgot about that.
I think what we'll end up doing in the coming months is we're going to be out on the road a bit. We've got a sofa.
Oh yes, the
So
sofa.
we've got what we call Johnny's sofa. So we've got this sofa that's a Hastings St Leonards men's group sofa that we sort of stitched together, literally.
Stitched up.
And we're going to take it to places and we're going to have people sit on the sofa and you can come and sit on the sofa and have a chat.
Yeah.
And I think the idea is that, you know, again, it's just an opportunity to sit and have a chat with someone. And we're going to put the sofa in, and we're going to tell people where the sofa's going to be at a certain time. And we're going to do it every other weekend or, you know, so around the Hastings St Leonard area.
Yep.
And we encourage people to sort of follow the brand and come and have a chat.
Absolutely.
Certainly men as well.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, you're saying about the sofa, that is pretty exciting. You know, the world tour of Hastings and St Leonards.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think over the coming months, there's just going to be there's so much that's being discussed now already, and it's only going to get bigger.
Yep, it is.
And it's. I'm a little bit passionate about this. You might have guessed. A little bit excited about it, and I think for good reason.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree, and it's given me a lot of purpose, I have to say.
100%.
In life.
100%.
Before I clog it.
I've not felt this determined about something in such a long time, and the fact that I am part of this is I use the word humbling again because it is humbling. But
I agree, it's a good word.
If not for this, I think my head might be in a bit of a darker place because this has given me sort of something to sort of focus on, but it's also given me a broader sense of understanding about my own psyche and mentality. So, yeah, I'm thankful for it.
Good. I think that's a great time to stop and tell you that we'll be back, both of us. But before we switch off the camera, just want to give our kid a hug.
Oh, love it,
son.
love it.
Bring it in.
That's what it's about.
Eh?
That's what it's about.
Thank you. Thanks for listening, seeing.
Until next time.
We'll see you next time.
Yeah. We'll think of a really good sign-off at some point.
We will think of a good sign-off.
You know,
now it's just very random.
Bye.
See ya.